Let's talk about color rendering. We're going to look at both the color rendering index as well as TM-30 and talk about additive and subtractive color mixing. We're going to use this system that was installed at NICEAD, really developed by IALD. We have multi-channel color mixing luminaires. So right now we're in a white light that's not particularly balanced. If I take a reading of it, it has all these channels, red, amber, green, cyan, blue, indigo, and white at full. I'll take a quick measurement just to see what we have as a baseline. Our CCT is about 5,000. It's 5,100 right now. CRI is 83, and TM-30, our color fidelity is 89, and our gamut is 108. We'll get more into this as we go. Just to give you a better understanding of what we're looking at here, this mixes a number of isolated channels. So if I do just pure red, I'm going to demonstrate additive color mixing. This is a very narrow band red LED. I'm going to then mix that with blue. Red and blue make kind of a fuchsia color here. There are two methods in terms of color mixing that we talk about. Additive color mixing is what we do with light. So in the world of light, we are, in this case, taking different sources, a red source and a blue source, and you can see the spikes here in red and blue. And we have very poor, if we were trying to mimic a white source, we're way off here. This is the circle for TM-30 that kind of graphically represents the color rendering, and this is a big ellipse that we have from just these two colors. Let's add in some amber and cyan. Now right now I'm just turning them on to full, so we're not hitting a specific color metric, but yeah, now we're at about 2400 Kelvin. CRI is 56, again because we're missing a lot of our spectrum. And our color fidelity from TM-30 is 70. Our gamut index is 103. But you can see here an improvement in TM-30. We're starting to get closer to the circle. Really the goal with TM-30 is to get right inside of that circle. Let's move into a different way to look at this system. I'm going to just turn everything, I'm going to go to a pre-programmed 4200 Kelvin. So here we've got different amounts of each of these light fixtures. And in the world of a static LED, if you were buying off the shelf a 3000K LED, they would have different phosphors mixed in over a blue pump. Most LED is either blue or violet underneath the phosphors. Then those layers of red and yellow, yellow and off yellow, different colored phosphors help to change the color quality of that light to become white. So here we don't need full amounts of everything to make this particular color. The red is at 44%, the indigo is at 5%. Let's take a reading and see if we're getting more accurate CRI and better TM-30 data. Yeah, so this preset, our CRI has gone up from the low 80s to 91. And our TM-30, our fidelity is still pretty low at 83, but our gamut index of 91 is not so bad either. It looks like we're a little shy in the green spectrum. And a little bit off in the magenta, but closer to normal. Now this is an example of additive color mixing where we're combining these different narrowband spectrums of LED, layering them on top of each other. To contrast that, I'm going to show you subtractive color mixing. Here's some colored lenses. Subtractive color mixing is really what we do with painting. If a painter is mixing red and yellow and blue paint, it's getting darker rather than lighter. They don't mix towards white paint, they mix towards black paint or gray, brown. So subtractive color mixing is mixing pigments or mixing filters to the point where you're eliminating color. So if I take this blue filter and bring it to the camera, I am filtering out all but the blue spectrum. So maybe take a look at the, I'll pick the red for this. Take a look at the swatches on the wall. I'm going to use the red filter, and you'll notice that the reds still look red, but we lose color rendition for the blue really looks gray, the green should look very gray as well. This is filtering out all but the red spectrum. So that is an example of subtractive color mixing instead of additive. Now let's talk a little bit more about metamers. So far we've been looking at the overall controls for these multi-channel light fixtures. This is a representation of the spectrum. This is the color space, and along here is a black body curve. We can actually modify the colors of light by moving our fingers around on the screen if you want to have the feeling of a nightclub. But typically, if we want to mimic white light, we're going to stay along that black body curve. The closer I get to the curve, the more consistently white it will feel, whether it's a cool white or whether we go towards a warmer 22 or 2400 Kelvin. I'm going to go to a pre-programmed 4000K here, and there's 4000. I'm going to modify our spectrum. A metamer, which is what we're going to look at now, is a way to achieve the same color temperature, or the same correlated color temperature, CCT, while adjusting the spectral makeup of that color. So in other words, right now I have a pretty pronounced blue spike, a little bit of turquoise, not a lot of red, but there's some. I can actually manipulate the amounts of pigments in here, and what we will see is no change to the lighting in the room in terms of color, but you will start to see the red become more vivid or less vivid. First though, I'm going to do a retest to get a sense of what this CRI and information is. So currently we have a CRI of 87, and our TM-30 data, our fidelity factor is 84, and our gamut is 91. Here's some of what our spectrum looks like. So the red is fairly low. There's a little bit of a spike, then it drops off, which matches what we're seeing here. And when we look at the TM-30 data, we do see the same effect, that there's this is undersaturated essentially in the magenta range and some in the green range. I am holding the color point, and I'm going to start playing around with the red. I'll go up and down, pay special attention to the red swatches on the wall. So this is saturated red, desaturated red, saturated red, desaturated red. For me, this looks a lot browner now, less vivid, and then if I bring this back up to full, the red looks a lot more vivid to my eye. Both of these, though, are the same color temperature. We've remained throughout this at the 4000 Kelvin color temperature. I'm going to do a retest now to see where we end up with this quality of light. All right, definitely an improvement here. So our CRI has crept up to 94. Our TM-30 RF data, the RF is a fidelity data. It's meant to be similar to CRI. That's measuring at 82, so not wonderful, but our RG, our gamut index, is at 94. And again, our specific goal was to increase the red, and we do see a big spike in the 780 nanometers. The red at the corner here has gone up significantly since we made this adjustment. Now, in order to keep the metamers, something's got to give. As I've raised this red, you'll notice on the screen other things are adjusting as well. So our green and our turquoise are going down to adjust and compensate for the additional red. As my red goes down, my blue will also go down to ensure that I'm not going to oversaturate. So why do we talk about metamers? This is about the quality of light at the end of the day. That you may have two different manufacturers that both have 3000 Kelvin products, and for some reason one of them is much more expensive than the other. One of them has a CRI of 95, the other might have a CRI of 85. These metrics at least point us towards 95 CRI. The color rendering index is higher, so we can be pretty confident it's going to render colors well. But even between 80 and 90 CRI, we don't know for a fact which specific colors might be better or less good. That the overall score of 90 in CRI is an average of all the different pieces of the spectrum. It's actually looking at different swatches and how well it renders those swatches. R9 refers to the saturated red swatch, and for LED, R9 is often the challenge to render well because red is pretty far out of the bandwidth of LED. But because you're averaging that R9 with the other swatches, you can still have a fairly good CRI while actually having pretty mediocre red rendering. So when you're assessing luminaires, one of the ways to do that is to get a sample and, like we're doing here, put some swatches out and light it up and see, does my red look undersaturated or does it have a vivid appearance? And the other thing you can do is ask for TM-30 data. TM-30 kind of supersedes CRI. CRI is still the metric that you will see for most consumer-facing products, most lighting fixtures, because at this point, not just our industry, but consumers going to the shelf have an understanding of not just color temperature, but also CRI. TM-30 is a new enough metric. It's been around for, I want to say, about 6 years now, but it's really not penetrated beyond the lighting industry. So if you ask a manufacturer for TM-30, they can provide it. You can certainly find it on some of the specification sheets, but it's not something that you're going to find off the shelf on the information of most light bulbs that you buy in a store. But yeah, this is the amazing and deep world of color rendering. Saturation can be over or undersaturated compared to the source you're comparing against. For example, if we go to incandescent lighting, I'm going to go down to 2700 Kelvin. So we're now in a very kind of yellowish light with incandescent. And the way that incandescent typically renders blue is not very strong. If this particular system was rendering blue strong, let's actually take a reading first. We will get a lower CRI even though blue will be more vivid than it would be under incandescent. That's because incandescent is the compared source for this. Yeah, so our CRI is 94. It's pretty good. Our TM-30 RF, the fidelity metric, is 87, and the gamut metric's 103. Not bad at all. And we'll see that we've got a little bit of blue, really not a lot of blue for this particular color temperature. So we're pretty close to the circle here. But maybe you want the blue to be more vivid. Maybe instead of being more accurate with your spectrum, a good example is Gap jeans. Gap jeans pre-LED, back in the days of compact fluorescent, was deciding what's the best light source to light our jeans. And while generally they liked incandescent and halogen in terms of the look and feel, compact fluorescent, which had a lower color rendering index and made most things look less vivid, did a better job on blue jeans than incandescent did because the blue was a higher component. I'm going to raise the blue for this color point. So remember before, let's see if we can grab it. We may be maxed out. Before we were at a fairly good, almost 100% in terms of our gamut. If I retest now, we've raised the blue up as high as it can go. Let me boost this up too. Let's see what we get. We should see more saturation in the blue range. So our CCT has remained the same at 2700. Our CRI has decreased. We're now at 81, which makes sense. We've added more blue than there's supposed to be, and we've adjusted the other colors. Our RF, the fidelity factor, is 85, not a big change there. And our gamut, the kind of overall saturation is at 99, also not a big change there. But we do see a significant spike in the blue now. So we're getting more blue in the spectrum than we had before. And this is reflected here, that our source, compared to the basis of this, the central blue circle, our red circle has oversaturation in the blue and magenta range. It's saying this is producing more saturated color than you may intend. This is definitely useful in retail environments. The Disney store tends to like saturated colors. Otherwise, there are times when fidelity is the most important thing. If you're going to a bridal shop and spending $8,000 on a gorgeous wedding gown, or more than that, you're going to want the color to be accurate. You don't want to walk out of there and have your bridesmaids, eggshell colored dresses actually look like they're off-white when you get into real color rendering outside. So we always have to think about how critical is color rendering and try to match the light sources we choose to that application. I'll also mention that it is possible to mix them. So if I'm doing art in somebody's home, I will have very good color rendering for the artwork. I can use color rendering in the 80s for general lighting in that residence, and as long as the color temperature matches, everything should look good. So that is our crash course on CRI, CCT, metamers, and TM-30. Good luck.